We have earthquakes. Do you remember where we were when that earthquake happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where were we?
In bed.
Yeah, we were in bed. So what do you do if you're in bed and there's an earthquake?
A big earthquake?
Mm-hmm.
You put a pillow over your head?
You just kind of stay there. You want to make, with the pillow over your head, and you want to make sure
You hold
that, oh yeah, you can, yes, you want to hold on to your bed if it's shaking, so you'll stay in your bed, huh? Now, if you weren't in your bed, where should you?
What if you were by the window and then an earthquake comes? What do you do?
Go somewhere in the room where there's no windows.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that?
A hiding place?
Well, maybe under a sturdy table?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what helps you remember what to do in an earthquake? What do? You drop,
Cover and hold.
hold
That's
on.
right.
Drop, cover, and hold on. We got married a little bit later in life. I bought this house before we got married. I was single and planning on having roommates, and then he was one of the nice people that came and helped me paint the house. So when we got married, it was really interesting to find out that we both had an interest in emergency preparedness. He brought some food storage, and I had food storage, and now we have 3 little girls living with us, and we just have a lot of opportunity to practice the preparedness with our little kids. I think in life, just raising kids gives you lots of practice with preparedness situations, because you got to have diapers, you got to have extra food, extra water for your kids. So
Gotta know how to put out fires.
wherever we go, we're always trying to be prepared for our kids. Before we had kids, I think it was a little bit easier because you just have time to yourself, and it's only 2 people that you're worrying about. And we had talked about, Seth was working in another location, and so we talked about emergency plans of what we would do if there was an emergency. Seth took his bike to work, right? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He stored it there.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get your amateur radio license? Was that before or after we had kids?
After. One of the big differences in preparedness when you're single as opposed to being married is that you have to worry about more than just yourself. And so there's a little more that goes into that. Obviously with kids, one of the first things is car seats. You got to make sure you know how to install those correctly to make sure your kids are safe. Just little things like that. But I don't know, and even in preparedness in general, it's important to recognize the people around you and that they may need help as well. And if you're prepared to help yourself, you can help other people too.
I think one of my big reasons for preparing would be that my parents were prepared, and so I just naturally learned it from them. Having a big family, my parents just always had food storage and maybe we didn't do all of the preparedness type activities, but we at least had financial resources and food resources and that stability that preparedness provides.
One thing that comes to mind, my brother, one of my other brothers, when one of the apartment complexes they lived in, they came out of their apartment and there was a boy who was in the river, and they pulled him out, and they didn't really know a lot what to do, but they know enough. They put him on his side and massaged his side, and water came out, and they called the ambulance, and he was okay. But I think that's one event that just made me think, how important it is to just have a little bit of training to know what to do in situations like that. And because you just never know you don't think it will happen to you until it does.
I went to camp when I was younger for a week, and my family didn't really do camping growing up until I went to camp for a week away, and I came home wanting to just live in the wilderness. I don't know why. It was just great being out in nature, and I convinced my family to buy a tent so we could go camping. We were living back in Massachusetts at the time, and so I think camping is a great way to practice preparedness because a lot of the things you do when you're camping are related to being prepared, being able to cook, being able to have sanitation, all of those things you do when you're camping. Also, when I first went to camp, we had a checklist of all the things that we were supposed to put in our packs when we went to camp, and I, just being a new person, not ever been camping, I took it seriously and I went down that list, and my parents helped me get every single thing on that list. And I remember going to camp and having everything when some people didn't have the things, and I was so excited that I was prepared. There was one thing I didn't have, it was a broom. And I remember, because you got to sweep out the tent at the end of the week. And so I remember getting some pine branches and getting some rope and trying to tie it together and make a broom. And it was really cool to try and be resourceful.
When it comes to preparedness, it's important to be resourceful. So one of the things that we've done is, especially with having a family, one of the things that we do is for food storage is try to bargain shop. So we'll wait for like a case lot sale when things go on sale, and then we'll buy a lot, and we will put that in our storage room, and that way, when the emergency comes, we have things on hand. And and because if you wait till the emergency comes, it's going to be expensive to buy things. Particularly with the pandemic, toilet paper's all gone, everything's gone. But if you have those things beforehand, then you don't have to worry when the emergency comes.
And I was so grateful with this when this pandemic started and everyone was rushing and trying to buy stuff at the store, that I didn't have to worry about going to the store. We had the supplies that we needed. We had the toilet paper. The only thing that we were a little bit low on was dishwasher soap. And I was like, if we don't get dishwasher soap showing up on the store shelves, I'm going to have to start using my regular dish soap. So that's just like a first world problem, So I was really grateful. I think preparedness provides a lot of peace in our lives, just not having to worry. As Seth mentioned earlier, just being able to help other people. When you're prepared, it puts you in a position to help other people that aren't as prepared. I remember a time when we had to use our supplies. One time we came home after visiting my parents, and the power was out at our house. And so I was really excited because we got to practice using our camp stove and heating up one of our freeze-dried meals and having dinner. And I remember it wasn't my favorite dinner, so it's good to try your food before you buy a lot of it. Make sure it's something you like.
And that brings up another important point that if you're getting food storage, you want to get things you use all the time. If you get things that you don't use, then they're just going to sit on the shelf and they're going to expire eventually. So if you get what you use and you rotate your food storage, then it doesn't cost extra. You're just using the things that you normally use and just keeping a little extra on hand.
I think a good starting place for emergency preparedness would be just start where you are, assess where do you want to be, and make little baby steps to get there. We're definitely not as prepared as we want to be. Preparedness, you're never fully prepared. The more prepared you can get, the better you are able to deal with whatever circumstances come your way. And sometimes things just blindside you. But whatever you have done to try and prepare, it can be helpful. And when something happens that you weren't ready for, hopefully someone else around you is there to help you in that situation when you weren't ready, but you're there to help someone else that's not ready. So it's all about helping each other. And I think getting to know your neighbors is a great, great thing, because getting to know your neighbors, your community, that can all work together to help each other in an emergency.
And I think it's also going along with that, it's important to have other people that have interest in preparedness that you can talk with to get ideas. Because if you're all doing it yourself, you can do that, but it's helpful to have other people who are also interested in that, where you can share ideas. That can make a big difference. And one of the challenges, though, is we're all in different situations. I mean, some people are young or in college. They just have an apartment. They don't have for a lot of room for food storage. So it just varies. You got to just do what works for you in your situation. Another tip I might share is that if you try to make it fun, I think that makes a difference. So, for example, when I was in high school, I had a hobby. A friend of mine and I used to like to go backpacking. And, to try to fit everything in a backpack that you're going to take for a few days on a trip, that it takes a little bit of work and preparation. But if it's fun, it's something you like to do, then it's not, it's not work, it's fun. So if you can make it into play, then that can make a big difference.
I agree. And you got to see Seth's backpack, because one time he just came home from work, his brother invited him to go backpacking, and all he had to do was pull his backpack out, add some water to his reservoir, and he was ready to go. I was so impressed.
So in Utah, we live in an area that's a seismically active region. And so it's a good idea to be prepared for an earthquake, because we just never know when one's going to happen. We had one last year in the Salt Lake Valley, and we felt that here. It wasn't as big as you would have felt it there. But you just never know. I mean, like the one they had in Japan, that was a really big one. There was one in China as well. So one of the things that we've done to prepare for an earthquake is to try to secure items in our homes that could move when the earthquake hits. So one of the big dangers with an earthquake is glass, breaking glass, and so we try to teach our kids to stay away from windows if there's an earthquake. Also securing furniture. Just those simple things are really important to do beforehand, because you can't, once the earthquake hits, you can't say, oh, I'm going to go strap my shelf to the wall. You got to do those kinds of things before.
So we have, to prepare for an earthquake in our house, we have strapped some of our cabinets. We've used various techniques for putting shelves to the wall and finding ways to secure them so they won't tip over. A lot of the things that you could use for an earthquake, you also can use for childproofing, so your furniture won't tip over on your child. So it kind of goes hand in hand: safety for children, safety for earthquakes. Also, with some of our pictures, our heavier pictures, we've gotten some special hangers for them, so to keep them secure in an earthquake.
One of the things we did to prepare for an earthquake that maybe not everyone would do is in our food storage room, we have shelves that are securely fastened to the wall. So, if that room were to shake, we wouldn't have jars falling on the floor and breaking. And so I think that's a really important. It's a good idea. It's given us a little more peace of mind. Something simple.
We also, in our food storage room, got some ratchet straps from Harbor Freight, the cheap kind, and we used those to kind of make a little seat belt around our shelves to keep stuff on for in case some shaking happens.
One of the things is, I don't know if you mentioned it, maybe you did, but one important thing in an earthquake is that large furniture can move, like your refrigerator in your kitchen can move. And, if you're in your kitchen, I mean, there's always a risk that big fridge is going to come right at you. And so, it's important to look for do a house hunt, look for things like that, and then find ways of securing those items so that, if you can think of it as someone picking up your house and shaking it. If someone were to do that, what would you do beforehand to make sure that you're going to be safe?
We actually have a neighbor who was in an earthquake in, I think, California, and talks about how her fridge flew across the kitchen. So after we had our earthquake that happened here in our area, we actually got online and found some appliance straps, and we got them for all of our fridges and freezers and got them installed. So we feel a little safer about that now. Although there's plenty more to do always. One more tip about earthquake preparedness. There are some various supplies you can get, like earthquake putty and I think it's called museum wax. You can get to actually secure objects to your shelves. So you can secure your shelves to the wall, but then you need to secure some things that are on your shelves so they won't all fall off. And so you can get some putties to put underneath them to help secure them in place. And I need to do a little bit more of that around our house. But I did put some actually behind some of our pictures, so it just kind of keeps them a little more secure on the wall. I also have some 3M like picture mounting strips that I'm also planning to put behind some of the pictures to help keep them more secure.
We also have some pictures in our hallway hanging over our stairway, and we were concerned about those falling in an earthquake. So we used some picture hangers that are earthquake proof so that they can withstand a lot of shaking and they still won't fall. So just little things like that are really nice. Another danger with an earthquake that's really common is fires. So when an earthquake happens, one thing that can get damaged is your gas line. And if you're like us, we have natural gas. And one of the primary components of natural gas is methane. And when methane mixes with air, it's highly explosive. And so that's why the gas company tells you that if after an earthquake you smell gas, you need to be able to shut off your gas line. And so we have a tool for shutting off our gas line that's connected to our gas outlet. So we know where it is, and we have the tool, and we can shut it off if we need to.
Only if we need to.
Right, so you don't want to shut off your gas if you don't smell gas after an earthquake, because if it's winter and it's cold, that gas is not going to be turned on until the gas company gets around to it, which can take a long time. And you shouldn't turn it on yourself, because only somebody from the gas company is supposed to do that. So I first got involved with amateur radio through my brother got his license, and then later on I was at a preparedness fair and someone was selling amateur radios, and I went and talked to them, and they convinced me to get a radio, but then I had to take the test. So I studied and learned all the things that are involved with amateur radio and passed that, and there's also a Utah Valley Amateur Radio Club that I participate in. So there's a lot of great people that can help get you up to speed, and some of those are involved with emergency preparedness. Others are involved with like bike races and things like that, events. So radio is great for that, because it's kind of like it's a conference call, except You know, everybody can hear everybody, and so that works well for an event. With ham radio, to be prepared, to be involved with the community, one thing you can do is to check into nets where they talk about preparedness. And so I'll check into the ERC net is one, and the Aries net. And they do also events where you can go and participate to practice using a radio in emergency type of situation. So when you do that, you get live experience, you know, knowing how to communicate when there's no repeater, and to go through, and that's really helpful. And some of those, there's other programs that they have too, like Timpanogos Emergency Response. And so there's lots of opportunities to get involved and to volunteer and to improve your skills. Hamstudy.org has all of the test questions, so you can go in there, and if you study a section at a time, that's a good way to prepare. You can also take a class, so they have technician, general, extra classes you can take. Those are a great resource as well. So it just depends on what fits you. The easier, the first level test, you can just study the questions and be fine without a class. A lot of people do that.
One thing that we like to do with our car, we like to just keep supplies in our vehicle. For example, since we like camping, right now we actually have sleeping bags and things like that in our car. So if we happen to spend the night somewhere, if we happen to need to spend the night somewhere, we're ready to go. We keep have toothbrushes, extra pair of clothes, just some items like that we keep in our car. And when we ever go on driving somewhere, we usually take some snacks with us, and we have water in our car as well. So we're kind of prepared for if we couldn't come home for some reason. We're prepared to spend the night somewhere else. Another tradition we have in our family is when the gas tank gets to half full, that means it's time to gas up. For me, growing up, when I started driving, I just would get stressed out if my gas level was getting lower and lower. I never wanted to get down to where the gas light came on, because I would feel like, oh no, I'm in big trouble now. And so we just have a tradition in our family of always gassing up whenever the gas gauge gets to the half point. And I saw I think it was a Be Ready Utah ad on the back of a bus once that said, "Don't be fuelish." Fill up your gas tank when it's half full, something like that. It was really clever. The thing I would want people to know about preparedness is it's an ongoing process, and don't feel stressed about it. Don't feel overwhelmed about being prepared. It's just one step at a time. Do a little better. We make mistakes all the time in life and wish we had been better prepared. Well, learn from your mistake and just be a little better prepared the next time. That's what we do.
One of the things that's important to keep in mind as well is that no one's ever completely prepared for an emergency. But we can do little things each day to improve our preparedness. And if we do that, and if we keep on preparing, then it's amazing what we can accomplish and what we can be ready for. And that's the goal, is to be ready and to be able to help yourself and to help your neighbors.